Hi, this is Emily of Beauties and Headcanons. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
This is Kim Meyer, the host of Choose to Rise here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my show, Choose to Rise, where we talk about living with positive mindsets, how to increase our confidence, building our faith, and living out our life on purpose. A new show comes out via podcast every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And if you want to catch the episode live instead, stop by Public House Media around 6:45 Central Standard Time, Monday, Wednesday, Friday as well. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you'll never miss an episode of Choose to Rise. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Throughout history, the course of sports has been shaped by one thing: the fans.
From the moments you never dreamed of,
has saved the USA's life in this World Cup.
Paul, the runner, loose ball, it's good! Gonzaga, the slipper still fits! To the moments that still give you nightmares.
Behind the bag, it gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it.
He's in. Patriots win the Super Bowl. Brady has his fifth.
through the good and the bad, fans have helped change the games we watch and the players we love.
They may not be the most logical people.
You are a factory of sadness!
I'll see you Sunday.
But they know their teams better than anybody.
They'll blow in the ninth.
You may not always see them, but you know where to find them.
After all, there's nothing quite like the view from the cheap seats.
Broadcasting is part of the Public House Media Network.
Grab a chair and enjoy all there is in
The cheap seats.
And a good morning to you all on this beautiful fall day. Well, at least it's beautiful here, Jake. I don't know if it's beautiful there, but first of all, how you doing?
Oh man, I'm doing well. Hockey starts up. We're going to be talking about that a little bit this morning, but hockey's starting up soon. Football is pretty much in full swing now. I mean, week 4 of the NFL season coming up, and big college games, including Penn State, Ohio State. I'm in a great mood, man. I'm stoked. Let's get it.
Yeah. I love this. We talked about this last week. This is my favorite time. The leaves are changing. The air's getting cooler, and it's just so nice. It's such a fun, like you said. I mean, we're getting the footballs into full swing, baseball. I mean, this is, well, we always get so excited, Jake, but before we get into it, we want to remind you all that we are presented by Squadcast.fm, presented on the Public House Media. You can listen to us on iTunes, Google Podcast, Spreaker, Spotify, pretty much now, wherever you get your podcast. Make sure that you catch us Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Mondays with Christian and Jonathan, Wednesdays with Tanner and Max, and then Fridays with Jake and myself, Matt. Visit us on the phmedia.com to get some swag and find out more about the other shows that Public House Media has to offer. Make sure you like our Facebook page, and then our daily poll question on every day that a show comes out on our Cheap Seats Facebook page. So, Jake, This has been a crazy week in baseball. I mean, this is let's not even try to sugarcoat it. The American League, it's boring. It is what it is. So we're just going to talk about the National League. There's no reason to talk about the American League. But Jake, the East is decided. We got the Atlanta Braves, who just ran away with that division. Then you have the Central and the West, Jake, that in the past week. And I am proud to say, thanks to the Pittsburgh Pirates for causing this turmoil. It's not that the Brewers went on a 7-3 run in their last 10. It's that the Pirates took 2 of 3 from them, took 2 from the Cubs, and now we have the Cubs and the Brewers separated by less than a game.
Yeah, it's it's funny. Matt Geica, a good a friend of mine,
friend of
coworker
the shows.
of mine.
He's been on,
friend of the show. He tweeted the other day that what a great finish that the Pirates could very well finish the Cubs' hopes of winning the National League Central.
Yeah.
With a big series just recently. So yeah, it's neck and neck between the Cubs and the Brewers. And, that is thanks to the Pittsburgh Pirates. But, let's face it, both of those teams are really good.
Yeah.
Both of those teams are really good. And, it's exciting that the Pirates are going to finish, 500 or a little bit better. That's exciting. But yeah, what's really exciting here is the Cubs and the Brewers that are just, they've been battling it out all year, and it's going to come right down. It's going to come right down to the final day.
Yeah, and both of them deserve to make the playoffs, which they already clinched playoff spot. But now they obviously they want to win the Central. And it's been just crazy to see this. That Jake, a friend of mine out here, every time he sees me, he goes, "The Pirates just won't go away." I said, "Hey, if they're not gonna make the playoffs, at least cause some trouble. I'd like to see Milwaukee come out of here." So, when they were playing the Milwaukee last week, I think we were talking, Jake, that I wasn't going to root against the Pirates, but I would have been okay if Milwaukee took that. But I can't even. I'm still pulling for Milwaukee, but. There's still, obviously it's anybody's division. Do they play each other again? Let me look here at their schedule. I don't know if they play each other again before. No, they end the year with St. Louis. So the Cubs end the year with St. Louis. I'm not sure who Milwaukee finishes with, but St. Louis too. All of a sudden it looked like they were just coasting right into the playoffs, Jake. Well, not coasting, but they had a pretty easy road. And now all of a sudden the Rockies and the Dodgers have just blown out of the water. The Rockies on a huge winning streak, overtaking the Dodgers again, Jake. That they are back in first place. Dodgers back in the wild card. Looks like both of those teams are going to get in either way. St. Louis, is only 2 games out of there, but those two teams are so hot. I don't see them stopping in the last series of the year.
Yeah, and what's interesting, like you said, the Cubs finished with the St. Louis Cardinals. Milwaukee Brewers finished with the Detroit Tigers.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Right now, again, it's, virtually a tie.
Mm-hmm.
And this remaining schedule is really in the Brewers' favor, with going up against a Detroit team that's just old and, they're trying to rebuild, but they still have Cabrera's contract that they're responsible for. The Brewers very well might win this division, which is pretty. Which at the beginning of the season, I don't think anybody would have been surprised. Of course, the Cubs were the favorite, but yeah, I didn't expect the Brewers to win. I expected them to be a wild card, maybe that second wild card, more or less. But yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun weekend.
Yeah, and it's crazy how even these teams are. I'm just, as you were talking, I'm looking here. They're virtually the same at home, virtually the same away, within 10 runs of runs for, within about 10, 15 runs for runs against. Like, that's just crazy how similar these teams are. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, by next week, by the next time we meet, Jake, everything will be decided. So it'll be a lot of fun to see how this happens. October baseball is one of my favorite times of the year. And yeah, we'll see what happens. But that's all we're doing today for your quick headlines, because we wanted to make sure we talked about baseball. Of course, you all know that Jake is just salivating at the mouth because his favorite time of the year is coming up. And when we come back, Jake, I'm just going to let you go off on the rails and talk what you want to talk about hockey starting up this Wednesday.
Jeez. Let's go. Oh man, Matt, I'm excited for this. We're talking hockey on this Friday morning on the Cheap Seats. I'm Jake Holmes alongside Matt Coyne, of course. But I had to, when we were talking about the show, Matt, I just was like, hockey's starting in 5 days. Like, meaningful hockey's starting in 5 days. Can you believe it, Matt? It's just a fantastic time to be alive.
I can't believe it's back already. That's when we were talking off the air, and we talked about what do we want to talk about, and you say, well, hockey's starting back up. I'm like, no, it's not. And it is. Hockey's back up.
Yeah. A banner is finally raising in Washington, D.C. The now Capital One Center, or Capital One Arena in downtown Washington, D.C. The Washington Capitals on Wednesday night will be entertaining the Boston Bruins, two teams that are going to be really tough to beat. They're obviously both teams were in the playoffs last year. Boston kind of fell apart against Tampa Bay in the second round. I thought Boston was going to be a lock for that for that Atlantic Division crown, if you will, to go to the Eastern Conference Final. Just the way that they finished the year with a Pasternak, Bergeron, and Marchand line. But I'm telling you, Matt, I'm very excited. This is going to be a really interesting year because of a lot of moving pieces in the offseason. John Tavares, of course, was a big name in July, going to the Toronto Maple Leafs. And, of course, Erik Karlsson just recently traded to the San Jose Sharks. There was Mike Hoffman to Florida, Max Pacioretty to Vegas. It's been a really wild offseason. I'm really excited to see how it all comes into play.
Yeah, I think it's like you said, all these changes. Obviously, we had the Tavares sweepstakes earlier in the offseason, and a few big names move in. And of course, you got the Golden Knights, who I think a lot of people are excited about. Who, you got this team who I think when I first heard their name, I'm like, really, Golden Knights? And they're they're legit though. They are legit. Yeah, and I mean they added. I added Paul Stastny to an already pretty good group of centermen with William Karlsson and Erik Haula. That's going to be another interesting team. They just signed Shea Theodore to a 7-year contract, which I don't completely understand. They're going to be without Nate Schmidt, their best defenseman, in my opinion, last year for the first 20 games. PED violation. So, I mean, that's going to be a really interesting team. And as long as you have Marc-Andre Fleury in the crease, you're going to have a chance to win at least 40 games. That's going to be. Last year wasn't a fluke. They're going to be just as good. I don't think William Karlsson's going to have, anything like 43 goals again. But that's still going to be a really good team. They're going to have Marchessault and Riley Smith flanking him, and they got the winger. They got the winger to replace that power forward in James Neal, who was shipped off to Calgary. He shipped himself off to Calgary. It was free agency. But, getting Max Pacioretty, that's still going to be a really good team. Yeah, so who, staying in the West, who's a team that you think we should be looking out for this year? A team that didn't make the playoffs last year that you think is somebody to look at this year?
Well, I think the Calgary Flames are going to go to the playoffs. I think that's going to be a really good team. They made the trade for Elias Lindholm and Noah Hannafin. Sent Dougie Hamilton to Carolina, but that's still going to be that's a really good trade for both teams, in my opinion. It addresses needs. Of course, they needed Calgary wanted another puck-moving defenseman to be able to complement what Mark Giordano does, the most underrated player in the NHL, in my opinion, Mark Giordano. Brought in James Neal. They brought in another scorer to complement Johnny Gaudreau, the right wing. Johnny Gaudreau, the left wing. They bring in the right winger and James Neal. Well, I'm anxious to see with them. I think that they have potential to finish second in that division behind San Jose and actually jump Vegas if they can get another centerman. They're going to need another centerman, but that's still going to be a really good team. The goaltending's still a little bit of an issue, in my opinion, but that's going to be a really good team. They've got a lot of really good hockey players, and they're coached well as well. So I mean, I'm excited to see what Calgary does. I think that they're a 100-point team. I think that they could definitely finish second in that division. But I'm gonna guarantee them at least third.
Yeah, and that's I think a lot of I've seen different predictions. I've seen different writers say that they have that chance. Like you said, they're missing that one piece. In the East, who's a team you think we need to look out for who didn't make the playoffs last year, who you think is going to make this year?
Well, fun fact about the my Eastern Conference surprise team. It's not. I don't think that they're going to be a quote surprise, even though they didn't make the playoffs last year. The Florida Panthers, after the turn of 2018, after the calendar turned to 2018, they had the best record in the NHL. They have the best winning percentage in the NHL.
I remember that.
They were so good. They started out the year 1-10. That's why they Of course, that's why they, kind of, fell off the radar there.
Mm-hmm.
But, they gave the captaincy to Alex Barkov, which is very well deserved. I think that they've got also another really underappreciated number one defenseman in Aaron Ekblad. They've got a lot of good pieces around him. They added Mike Hoffman, who's got one of the best shots in the entire NHL, and Roberto Luongo. He's 486 years old.
I was just gonna say,
he can still get it done. He can still get it done in net, and they've got a pretty good backup as well. So I'm looking for the Florida Panthers. They're another team. I don't think that they're gonna. They certainly aren't going to pass Tampa Bay or Toronto in the standings or anything.
Mm.
But if Boston can't figure out their third and fourth line, they're another team that I think the Florida Panthers could easily finish third in the Atlantic.
Yeah. Now, within the Atlantic, I think the talk of the offseason, well, even last year, but the talk of the offseason, Tampa Bay and Toronto. I feel like those, maybe I'm wrong, Jake, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like those are the two teams that everybody's talking about. Do you think that, I saw one writer say that, it's Tampa Bay, Toronto, but do you still put Pittsburgh? Washington is defending champions. You got to beat the champs, and you got the Pittsburgh Penguins, who, I don't think they got any better, but you still got Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin on their team.
Well, actually, Matt, I'll tell you this. I think the Penguins. First part of the question, I don't think that it's Tampa Bay and Toronto. I don't at all. I think that there's Boston in there, that they're well coached. They've got the veteran leadership. If they can figure out a way to work with that third and fourth line, I think that Boston is just as good as Toronto. The thing with Toronto is they have no blue line. Their top pairing is going to be Morgan Riley and Jake Gardiner. That's not a Stanley Cup winning. That's not even a playoff series winning first pairing. They won't beat a team 4 out of 7 times in a row. They just won't with that blue line. Teams will figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
You can only score so many goals. The offense is only going to be there so many times. I look at Washington as being as more of a contender than Toronto. I look at Pittsburgh as well. I think coming out of the East, I would say that it's going to be one of 5 teams. Of course, look at this guy saying
one of 16. No, I'm just kidding.
It's like, but it's a 5-horse race. It's Boston, Toronto, Tampa, Washington, Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that there's any other team in the Eastern Conference, even if a team gets hot like Washington did last year in Vegas as well. I don't think that any other team, but Toronto's in the mix, but I don't look at them any higher than Pittsburgh, Washington, maybe Boston. I would give them a nod over Boston. But still, they added one player. They still lost Tyler Bozak and James Van Riemsdyk.
Yeah.
John Tavares is a fine player, but he's not Connor McDavid. He's not Sidney Crosby. He's not Alex Ovechkin. He's a really nice player. He's not going to get them a Stanley Cup. He's not going to get them an Eastern Conference championship. And you know what? With Tampa Bay in that division, he's not going to get them the Atlantic Division crown either.
You heard it right here. Jake Holmes. Boom.
Boom.
All right.
Drop.
Jake, just because of time's sake, I know you're not going to like this, but I got to, and I have not heard your prediction yet, but who do you have? Let's keep this. I don't want to hear your Stanley Cup champion because I think we're going to talk more about this next week, but who do you have in the Stanley Cup finals?
Well, here's the thing, Matt. The thing with hockey, it's very similar to baseball. Very rarely does the best team win the championship.
Mm-hmm.
Very rarely. Washington wasn't the best team last year in the NHL. The Pittsburgh Penguins weren't the best team in 2017. They were in 2016, but very rarely does the best team in the NHL win the Stanley Cup. So just because I'm saying this doesn't mean that, if a team figures out, good depth lines, that team's going to, and a team plays good hockey at the right time, that team's going to go to the finals. But that's just the way that it is. If I was to put a prediction down, honestly, I think San Jose is going to win the Western Conference pretty easily. I think San Jose is the best team in the NHL, most talented at least. But as far as the Eastern Conference, I don't see any way that you cannot pick Pittsburgh. It depends on what they work with Dominic Simone, Zach Aston-Reese, and Daniel Sprong. If Daniel Sprong's a bust, they aren't going to win. They aren't going to go to the Stanley Cup. They're going to need Daniel Sprong to be Daniel Sprong, what they want Daniel Sprong to be. So if I was to say a Stanley Cup prediction right now with, for a series that'll happen 8 months from now, I'd say it'll be Pittsburgh going to San Jose 4 times.
Okay, there we go. So, well, I'm going to give you mine, Jake. I know I'm an idiot with hockey, but I want to give you mine because I want you to tell me what you think of it. You ready for this? I have no explanation. I'm just going to go with it. I'm saying Winnipeg and Pittsburgh.
I see Winnipeg's a team. I think they're going to win the Central. I think the thing that worries me about them is their centerman depth. They lost Paul Stastny. Mark Scheifele is fantastic, though. That's a team. I mean, they're big and they're strong. I'll tell you this right now: if you're a Pittsburgh Penguins fan, you would much rather play San Jose than Winnipeg. Winnipeg will blow them right into the fourth row. That's a big, physical, and fast team.
Yeah.
Winnipeg would have destroyed Washington in the Stanley Cup final, I'm convinced. But Vegas was just too fast for him. I would love to see that matchup: speed versus just physicality and grit. I would love to see that Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, Jake, we'll talk more about this next week, I think, and probably obviously the upcoming weeks. But Jake, when we come back, we're going to talk some football, and I hope that you don't tackle me too hard because I'm probably going to flag you because that's all what is happening in the NFL because I guess you can't tackle anymore. So when we come back, we're going to talk about that and more of the upcoming weekend highlights. Stay with Jake and myself. And welcome back to the cheap seats. Matt Coyne, Jake Holmes. We got to settle down a little bit, Jake. I don't want to get flagged.
But seriously, Baxter will be throwing the yellow hankies he's closer than he is me.
Oh my gosh. Jake, I'm being serious. What is... I mean, you saw the Clay Matthews hits, right? I mean, I'm in Green Bay country, so... Everybody up here is going crazy, and I keep laughing because I say, welcome to James Harrison 5 years ago. Well, 5 years ago. I said, I've seen this, I've done it, and they're like, well, it's just because it's Clay. No, I've seen it. This happened 5 years ago with James Harrison. James Harrison, would you imagine James Harrison's hits that he was getting penalized and fined for 5 years ago, what he would be happening now, Jake?
He'd be in prison.
Oh, my gosh.
In prison.
That's why I went back and looked at some of the hits that he was fined on that I thought were clean, that we know were clean, but I'm like, oh my gosh, if Clay Matthews, who clearly had a nice form tackle, Jake, here's what I don't understand. I'll just get off of that. We know that I'm annoyed by it. I don't know. Are you annoyed by all this? I haven't even.
It's terrible. I mean, they ruined that Monday night game. I mean, of course, I'm going to talk about the Steelers a little bit, but
they
ruined that Monday night game. They ruined that Monday night game, and I'll tell you, this is 2 weeks in a row. I'm not trying to appeal to the Wisconsin crowd or anything because I know that we've got a nice, following in Wisconsin. They got robbed out of 2 wins, in my opinion. They were coming back against the Washington Redskins. You mean to tell me they wouldn't beat the Washington Redskins? They would have beaten the Redskins if that wasn't called, in my opinion. They would have beaten Minnesota. They've gotten robbed out of 2 wins because of just the NFL being incompetent. It's pathetic. I've had it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's Monday night. There was 5, I think, that was called. It was the most since 2004. 14 years. And here's the thing. Those ones that were called in 2004, you don't quote me on this, Jake, but I guarantee they were dirty hits. Those ones on Monday night were terrible. Were absolutely, and I know the announcers kept saying, which, by the way, I don't know about Jason Witten on Monday night. But anyways.
I'd rather listen to 2 pieces of styrofoam rubbed together than listen to them.
At least they didn't put them on Sunday night. With Collinsworth. Oh, my gosh. But what they're saying that it's the weight of the defensive player. And I think to myself, Jake, I coach, I coach middle school football. and you teach the kids. You teach them. You tackle them, and you drive them into the ground. You tackle them, and you drive them to the ground. You form tackle, at the waist, wrap them up, and take them down. Right, Jake? Am I wrong thinking that?
So, I mean, no, you're absolutely right. That's how I was taught. Tyler Sechrist, who's doing a fine job with the Canton Warriors varsity football program, by the way, 5-0. Congratulations!
Wow,
but
yeah.
They're doing a fantastic. I mean, that's how I was taught when I played. But the thing is like even like to a non-football person, it's physics. If you're taking somebody to the ground, how much of your body weight is going on that person? Is it just your arm? Which would be what? On me would probably be what, 30 pounds? I don't know how much my arm weighs. Like, you're going to have weight going on the person. It's impossible to avoid. It's the dumbest rule of all time.
Look what happened to the player who, I can't think who he was, but he tore his ACL because he tried to miss him.
It was a young play. He's young. I can't remember what team he played for.
I want to say Miami.
It was the Dolphins.
Okay.
Yep, it was the Dolphins.
Yeah,
Good call.
And that's the thing. Like, I just don't understand what they want. And supposedly the NFL was going to come out this past week. I never actually heard anything that they said. But here's the thing. I want safety. I really do. I completely understand the head injuries, the concussions, the CTE. I understand all that. I really do, Jake. But these aren't head injuries. They're worried about the guy weighs 350 pounds. I know it's going to hurt if he lays on him, but what do you want him to do?
I really like what Dak Prescott said. Dak Prescott came out and defended the defensive players and said, "Hit me. I want to be hit. I'm here to get hit. I'm a football player. That's what you do. You hit people. That's hit people, keep them out of the end zone. That's how you play defense. I mean, the layman's term. It's not that difficult of a concept. I'm fine with, taking contact from the head. Like, I'm completely fine with that. But I mean, we're talking about just this stupid stuff of driving somebody into the ground when it's like Clay Matthews wasn't driving anyone into the ground. You got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
Like, give me that's just driving me nuts. It's ruining the game. People wonder why the NFL's ratings are down. I'll tell you why. It's terrible to watch.
Yeah, and that's you and I, we always like to wait until the end of the show until we get all of our stuff out about what we talked about with our poll question. But I'd like to hear from other people, Jake. To see, like, do you think this is ruining the game? Do you think these hits are ruining the game? And I guess I just kind of came up with our poll question without me really saying it, Jake. But I'd like to know. I think the answer is yes from many people, but maybe that's not the case. Maybe that's not the case. But I think it's ruining the game. I take this back. Like you said, it's lowering ratings. People are upset about it. It's going to ruin the game because it's going to get to the point where defensive players are going to. Did you see? Who was it who got called on Monday night for the Steelers? I forget who it was, but they called it, and he just like did the whatever kind of thing and threw his hand and walked away.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what do you want him to do? And I'm being serious. It's like that's what I forget who was saying. How do you even coach it? I think it was Jason Witten, actually. He said, how do you coach it? A player comes up to you, Jake, you're coaching defense for a team, and they're like, I just got flagged 15 yards for for doing a form tackle. What should I do, coach? What do you tell them?
I have no idea. It's scary. I mean, scary is a dramatic term. What's scary is being lifeless on the ground. That's scary,
Yeah.
But I mean, we aren't talking about contact to the head.
Yeah,
here.
exactly.
There was one of those roughing the passer penalties on Monday night was because Ben Roethlisberger got hit in the head, which was a terrible call.
Yes.
That was the most pathetic thing that I've ever seen. Ben got slapped in the head a little bit by Jason Pierre-Paul. I'm just going to keep all those comments to myself. But and he fell to the ground. It was just, it was pathetic. I have no words.
Yeah.
I have no words. It's terrible. The NFL, it's turning into a joke. It's terrible to watch.
Well, Jake, I know after hearing that it's a joke. It's terrible to watch. You and I will be glued to our TVs on Sunday.
Yes, we will.
Watching football. Oh, I love fans. We are so awesome. After all that complaining, we're going to watch football this weekend, Jake. We know there's a huge game coming up tomorrow in Happy Valley with Ohio State at Penn State. We're going to get all of our predictions here with Keith and Jake and me later in the show, but that is a huge game on Saturday. I know we talked mainly about Sunday, but Jake, I know you're excited about that game in Happy Valley for the whiteout.
Oh my gosh, I'm telling you. I mean, Penn State football, man. That was one of my first loves. Them and the Steelers. I mean, really. I mean, and growing up like in that area. I mean, Penn State football. It's the only thing to do. It's the only thing to do other than that and bale hay. I mean, that's the only thing that's exciting. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm really excited. I'm anxious to see what. I think this weekend, of course, tomorrow night, I think that's going to be a measuring stick of what Penn State football is right now. They've had great recruiting classes. The pipeline for 2019 and 2020 is great. They're going in a great direction. But what are they right now? Are they the team that was down in the third quarter to Illinois, or are they the team that played in the fourth quarter and beat them by 40?
Yeah. What a game. Wow.
What a wild game. I was 28-24, or it was like 24-21, something like that. And I was watching the TV and I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. It's Illinois. And McSorley and them boys, Miles Sanders went absolutely crazy. Willino's kid put up 42 unanswered, beat him 63-24. What team is going to show up against Ohio State? They're a young team. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Jake, on Sunday, there are. It's still early in the NFL season. It's hard to really get excited about many games. I mean, you got 3-0 Miami against the 1-2 New England Patriots. That's a game we're going to be picking this weekend. Jake, I'm not ready to put the 5 up for turmoil for New England yet. I think it's just. They're not as good as they were last year. I think, one, but two, they have a lot of injuries, Jake. I mean, a lot of injuries on their team right now.
Yeah, I mean, you saw how I know that they did it. That rookie, that Kerryon Johnson or whatever his name is. I know that he ran for 100 yards. Detroit didn't beat them last Sunday through the air. They did it on the ground, which is really strange for the Detroit Lions. But I mean. There were times where you definitely noticed the loss of Patrick Chung. You definitely noticed that on that New England defense, and he's not coming back. So yeah, they're going to have to figure something out. And you're right. You are 100% right, Matt. They aren't as good as they were last year. They aren't nearly as good as they were last year. That's not a great team. I don't know. They'll still probably go 12-4 though.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, jerks. Well, yeah. So you have. It's going to be an interesting year, I think. I mean, Green Bay, I mean, all the teams that have tied are 1-1-1, well, not Minnesota after last night, which Minnesota putting up 20 in the first half against Los Angeles, against the Rams last night was just insane to me. I couldn't, I mean, the Rams haven't given up, I think they gave up 20 last week, and that's it, but in one half, that's pretty impressive for Minnesota. So it looks like they're getting their offense, back into it. Green Bay playing the 0-4 Bills on Sunday. Hopefully that'll be a comeback game for them. Then just going down, you got Sunday night Baltimore at Pittsburgh, which is always a good game. But Jake, yeah, I mean, I think NFL is not what, and it never is. It's hard to predict it this year. You go into the year saying, well, these are going to be the good teams, these are going to be the bad teams, and that's just not what's happening this year.
Well, I mean, geez, you thought Jacksonville, after they beat up on New England, put up 31-20, really should have won by a lot more than that against the New England Patriots.
Yeah.
Thought that they were the team to beat. Man, oh man, what a terrible game against Tennessee. That was the most boring thing I've ever watched.
Yeah.
I would have rather watched like Golden Girls for like 3 hours. I mean, it was.
Well, hey,
and that is
Jake,
a good show.
That
is a good show. It's a bad example, but yeah, I mean, I would rather watch like an infomercial. But then again, Billy Mays, R.I.P. But
you're not
making
your case, Jake.
You never know. I mean, you never know. I mean, it's a weird. It seems like it's going to be one of those weird years.
Yeah.
And of course, our favorite Super Bowl of all time was that weird year with Oakland and Tampa Bay. So
yeah,
hopefully
absolutely.
it's something like that.
Yeah, it was a great year. Yeah, I love that Super Bowl. Well, speaking of Baltimore-Pittsburgh and everything that's going crazy, when we come back, Keith Hoenhe will be joining Jake and myself, and as he heads out to Pittsburgh this weekend, we'll get his report from Rocky Top. Stay with Jake and Matt here in the Cheap Seats. And welcome back to the Cheap Seats. Matt Coyne, Jake Holmes, and Keith Hoenhe. Welcome back. How was your week?
It was pretty good, Matt and Jake. How are you guys doing?
Splendid,
yeah,
man.
Doing great. We're just saying, I'm sure you are, Keith, because you're a football fan, but is fall, we just keep saying how much we like fall. Is fall on your power rankings of seasons? Is it up there for you?
Oh, it's number one without question. I just did here's a shameless plug for my Coffee with Keith and Katie show. Again, we were just talking about that in our last show about my favorite season being fall, and I woke up with 50 degree weather outside, that nice cool breeze coming through the window, no air conditioner needed, hoodie weather. That's what I like. I love that hoodie weather.
Yeah.
You're walking to that football stadium with the leaves crunching beneath your feet. There's just no better feeling in the world, right, guys?
Oh
yeah.
Man.
The hoodie with shorts, I wish I could wear that all year. All year, I wish I could do that. It would make me such a happy person. I was coaching a football game last night, and the weather up, Keith, you're in Wisconsin, up our way, it's in the low 50s, and we were getting that freezing rain, and I'm in shorts and a hoodie, and people were like, "What are you doing?" I said, No, I'm not leaving it yet. So anyways, well, now that we're all on the same page that we all love fall, Keith, this past week you were in Rocky Top. How was it? Your first impressions when you got to the stadium.
Oh, well, I'll give you my first impression when I got into Knoxville. You definitely knew that there was a game coming. I check into my hotel. It's in Knoxville, and nothing but that orange, and the alumni are already in town, and they're ready to go golfing, and the whole place just revolves around Tennessee football, as I'm sure you guys know. And then getting to the stadium, very similar to their area, much like Knoxville, where you have the camp, but not much else around, and then all of a sudden you turn the corner. About one thing, and that's Tennessee football.
Yeah, that's like you said. That's what we were kind of expecting to to hear, of that story, or to see what. I can't talk right now. That's what we were expecting to be all Tennessee, and that's good to hear on game day. Because you said you've been to their stadium, you've just never actually been there on game day, correct?
Correct. It actually goes for a number of places. As I've traveled around, I have an extensive travel history around the country, and a lot of that's kind of been in SEC country. So I've had the privilege of seeing a lot of these, these storied stadiums, for Alabama, LSU, Auburn, Florida State. So I've been to all of the stadiums, but I have yet to experience game day at any of them. So being able to experience the atmosphere, and this is my first SEC home game atmosphere, so it was something special for me and something that I'll remember. One note that I'll make, that I was expecting a little more fans from Florida. Maybe it's because that neither Florida or Tennessee has has had a great season up to this point. So maybe the Florida fans have filled the travel as maybe they usually do. But I was expecting a lot more Florida than I saw on game day.
Interesting. Yeah, I would have thought the same thing. So, tailgating. Obviously, you walked through the tailgate. What stuck out to you in the tailgate? What was kind of the food of choices you saw, and what impressed you about the volunteer tailgating game day?
I'll say this, and one thing that I mentioned to my coworker when I was down there, that I was expecting something. When you think of SEC tailgating, you think of the Grove at Ole Miss, and you think of these wild crawfish boils that they have at LSU and things of that nature, which I'm looking forward to at LSU in a couple weeks from now. But Tennessee, it was, for me, it was very average with as far as tailgating went in the atmosphere. And you had your normal tailgating rituals with people throwing the beanbag and the ball toss and throwing the football around and things like that. But I wasn't but I didn't see real Southern fare that you'd expect to see as far as food is concerned at an SEC tailgate. But it's not as nearly south as a lot of those other SEC schools. So as far as tailgating goes, hey, it was Knoxville on a game day, so it was great. It was electric. You could definitely feel the electricity, walking through the area and on campus. But as far as a unique tailgating experience, it's something that I really didn't experience in Knoxville. Something very similar to, I would say Madison, Michigan, other, big college places that I've been on game day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, were there a lot of people who stay? Their stadium's huge, right? It's over 100,000, correct?
Yeah, I think what is it now? I think I want to say like 106,000 or so. Definitely, I think there are about 3 or 4 schools that have surpassed it, but I think it's still a top 5 capacity wise.
Yeah, and now, were there a lot of outside of the stadium after? Did you get into this game?
I did not get into this game, unfortunately. Once I got back to it's always interesting because of my nature of work. I have a vehicle on campus there, so it's great to have that access on campus and to be so close to it. However, depending on what the campus rules are, sometimes you might have to move your vehicle when you're done working up before game time. So sometimes it might be counterproductive to actually go inside the stadium. And we didn't have tickets into this one anyways. We do have tickets for Baltimore and Pittsburgh that we'll touch on a little later, which I'm excited about. But I wasn't able to get into Tennessee. But you know what? It doesn't seem like I missed a whole heck of a lot.
No, it
of a
didn't.
Football game, seeing how it turned out.
Well, Jake, I'll let you ask I asked all the important questions. If you want to ask about the game or the afterwards, I guess the after effect of a Tennessee loss.
Sure. So, my main question for you, Keith, as a sports fan, obviously. So, obviously, the game, like you said, you didn't miss much. The game wasn't that great. What's your thoughts on Jeremy Pruitt blowing up on the sideline? He's been the coach for a grand total of 3 months. He wasn't their first choice because there was that huge backlash after they wanted to sign Schiano. What's your take? What's your take on that? I have my own opinions. I want your opinion of him just going crazy and kicking the chalkboard or the marker board and stuff on the sideline.
Well, I don't know how any other coach reacts to that because Tennessee was, they looked terrible. Just the offensive miscues and the turnovers and the boneheaded calls, you'll hear every coach of any sport at any level say, the physical mistakes, I'm fine with. Somebody's going to throw an interception, somebody's going to drop a pass, every once in a while. But, the mental errors that caused those for Tennessee, they did not look like a Division I football program. Plain and simple. And so Pruitt reacting the way he did on the sidelines, it definitely doesn't help. But I'm not so sure any other coach doesn't react the same way, considering how poorly Tennessee played, especially in that first, and then right in the second half, to turn the ball over again directly to start the second half after you thought that Tennessee might go in and get a little refreshed and maybe make a run at them in the second half. They were just awful. But anyways, getting back to Jeremy Pruitt, I don't know how any other coach reacts in that situation. I could see a lot of other coaches reacting very similarly, considering how poor Tennessee was. But, to speak specifically for Tennessee, the expectations are so high there, but it's very hard to win there right away, because it's a program that's a very storied program, that people expect to win, but they haven't won in so long. They haven't gotten the recruits, that they need in order to win right away, especially in the SEC. So these coaches that come in, the spotlight is on them so quickly, and they're expected to produce so quickly when, coaches, like Pruitt going into a program like Tennessee, they're going to need 4 years to really put a winning program together, and some of them only get 3.
No, understood. I agree. I agree. I mean, that's a tough situation for a coach, but I'm not a fan of like the fiery coach. I mean, but yeah, I mean that's a tough situation, and that team's awful, man. I'm with you.
Yeah. It's weird to see these like we were saying last week, Florida and Tennessee, just not one of them, at least one of them not being up there. But Jake, I just cannot talk today. Keith, you are going in to the Berg this upcoming weekend. Jake and I obviously are excited for you to be able to go and see a game there. The drama seems to have settled a little after Pittsburgh winning and beating Tampa Bay this past weekend, but there's still a good bit of drama, obviously, surrounding Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown and his tweet from 2 weeks ago. But what are you looking forward to, Keith? When you get into Pittsburgh?
I'm looking forward to the terrible towel, man. I'm looking forward to that whole stadium starting to wave that terrible towel. It's the original, right? And it's in Heinz Field. It's another one of those places that I've been to, but I've never experienced game day there. And being the rivalry that it has been for so long, even with the two teams being, performing under par, much like Tennessee and Florida, both teams were performing, not up to standards, but, it doesn't matter to those fans because they're always into it. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking forward to that rivalry that we've gotten used to between Pittsburgh and Baltimore. And I have a couple of friends in Pittsburgh that have said great things about Heinz Field. So being able to go into the stadium and experience it firsthand, I'm very excited about.
Awesome. Yeah, it'll be, we're both a little biased, but I mean, it is a great atmosphere, especially a Baltimore game. I've been to many Ravens Steelers games in Pittsburgh, and the fans can get a little heated. It is a time where I have actually, I'm ashamed to say there's been times that I've been ashamed to be a Steelers fan when I see that. So I hope you don't. Yeah. You don't. Well, you're not going to be wearing Steelers stuff, so you won't have to worry, or Raven stuff, so you won't be worrying about it. Have to worry about it. But I hope you don't run into that because it really is a great city, great atmosphere. Are you checking out any of the restaurants while you're in town?
Well, I think I have to go to Permane Brothers.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been there before, but I love the sandwich there. I definitely have to go again. I'm based out of Chicago right now on the north side, and Chicago has a place called Lucky's that's a block away from Wrigley, and I think someone that was once associated with the Permane Brothers, they brought that sandwich to Chicago. So whenever I need that fix, I'm able to get the imposter, but it's really good. It'd be great to go back to Pittsburgh and get the original.
There's another place, Jake. Maybe you can attest to this as well if you get a chance. It's a newer place, But there's a place, Keith, that's called Burgatory.
Ooh, okay. Yeah.
Really good. Really good burgers. If you get a chance, I highly recommend it. I don't know about Jake, but I recommend it for you.
Burgatory.
Yes.
Okay, like purgatory.
Yes, same thing.
Yeah.
And there's one on the North Shore, I think, right by the stadium. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, just like Purgatory, but Burgatory. So it's great. It's fantastic. But anyways, awesome. Yeah, we're excited to hear back from you. Now, after Pittsburgh, we're just quickly, where are you going after Pittsburgh?
Yeah, so after Pittsburgh, I got a long drive down to Miami. Then I'm going to be in Miami the following week for the Hurricanes. So that will be very interesting. I believe they play Florida State, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. Let me, let me check my schedule here quick and make sure that I actually know what game I'm working. But I definitely, Florida State at Miami the following week. That's a quick turnaround because, it's a Sunday nighter in Pittsburgh, and then you have to be down in Miami by Saturday. It's about an 18-hour drive, and I always make the drive, so that'll be a little bit of a quick turnaround. But then after Miami, I'm going to Baton Rouge, and then after Baton Rouge, it's on to Clemson. So I'm hitting some pretty big hitters in the next couple of weeks.
Great. Yeah, those are some great games. Well, as you know, before you head out, we want to make sure that we get your picks. All three of us did a little better this past week. We were all pretty dismal, better than terrible. Jake, you finished 2-3. Keith was 3-2. I was 3-2. Which brings our season totals to mediocre 10-10 by me, Jake 10-10, and Keith, you are 7-8, but you're a week behind us because we did all college games the first week. So
got it.
This just continue this, and if you're listening by now, we're 3 weeks into this of all three. So whatever game we say, whoever we say the other team. So that's how that can help you. So first game for you, Keith, Saturday, number 4, Ohio State at number 9, Penn State.
Penn State.
Yeah, let's go, Keith. Boy.
Got to go with Penn State on that one. It's going to be a great atmosphere with the whiteout, of course, in Happy Valley. So it'll be cool to see Penn State get a W. So I'm going Penn State on that one.
Great. All right. Next game, Tampa Bay at Chicago.
Ooh. I'm gonna go. I'm going to go Tampa Bay just because I don't think I can pick the Bears to win as a Packer fan. I just don't think I can do it. So,
I respect that. That's fine.
And I think Fitzpatrick is going to start too. I think he really needs to prove that he can continue to start. So I think they'll start him this upcoming week, but he's really going to have to prove something now. So I'll go Bucks.
Yeah, Fitzmagic scared me last week. Miami at New England. I would have normally not picked this one, but now I feel like this is a good game.
Yeah, New England.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a trap.
Yeah. Here's the funny thing. New England's going to go in and put 52 on them, and it's going to all go back to New England. It's going to be the Super Bowl favorites again. Next game, another one I don't think I would have picked at the beginning of the year. Cleveland at Oakland.
Ooh. You know what? Let's go Cleveland.
Let's go
Cleveland on that one.
All right. And the final one
I'm
is
looking forward to that.
The one you'll be at, Baltimore at Pittsburgh.
I'm going to go Pittsburgh.
Yes.
They're at home, Sunday nighter. It's another win that they absolutely need because 2-2 looks so much better than 1-3. So
it does.
I like Keith more and more with every week. I really do. It's great stuff.
Well, Keith, as always, thanks for joining us. It's always so much fun. I think every week our segment's getting longer and longer because we're just enjoying talking to you, listening to what you're doing. But please be safe on your way to Pittsburgh. And we'll look forward to talking to you next week.
Matt and Jake, it's a pleasure as always. Looking forward to next week, guys. Take care.
Yeah, thanks. You as well. There he goes, Keith Hoenhe on his way to the Steel City, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, for Baltimore at Pittsburgh. We'll get his report next week. Stay with Jake and Matt here in the cheap seats. When we come back, we will close out the show, give you our predictions for the weekend as well as our poll question.
Well, she'll ransack Pakistan and run a scan in Scandinavia. They should stick 'em up down under and go big. 'Cause we got the fire. Yeah, we got the fire. And we're gonna lay it down.
And welcome back to the Cheap Seats. Matt Coyne, Jake Holmes. A special thank you to Keith Hoenhe, as always, for joining us. Jake, I'm just loving that segment. I'm loving hearing his reports. Where he's heading on his adventures, and obviously he's heading to the Berg this weekend. And oh my gosh, I hope it makes me. I'll be back there. I'll be back there over the holidays at one point. But to go to Permani's Burgatory, Jake, what is your go-to Pittsburgh place for our Pittsburgh listeners? What's your go-to Pittsburgh restaurant?
Man, there isn't. It's not even a discussion. It's not even a discussion. Vincent's Pizza, Park in Forest Hills. It's the best pizza I've ever had in my life. And I'm not like I lived in Pittsburgh for 6 years, but I'm not from there. Of course, my family's from there. But I mean, every time that I either went there or when I lived there, I tried to go there 2 times a month. I mean, it's the best. Yeah. It's fantastic stuff. That's all. All of those locations are out by you, aren't they? Out by like Irwin, right?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. They're well. There was one in Irwin. I think it's still owned by the same family, but it's called Conforti's now, I believe. But it's the same type of pizza. But yeah, if you're ever in the Pittsburgh area, Vincent's is. Jake, a friend of mine once explained someone Vincent's Pizza like this. He said, "It is like a pig walked into the middle of a pizza and fell apart." That's
the best. Yeah, the best
I mean,
analogy.
The pepperoni pizza. It's literally like they just took a bucket of pepperoni and threw it on there, and it's okay. We got to stop, Jake. Got to stop.
It's real pepper. I mean, it's like real pepperoni. I don't eat that, but I mean, I have like the mushrooms and stuff. Yeah. I mean, it's you pay what you pay. You get what you pay for. Yeah. It's fantastic stuff.
Yes, very good. So, speaking of fantastic stuff, Jake, Ohio State number 4 at Penn State number 9. Who do you have?
Well,
Ohio State. Okay, I'll put it down.
Man, I'll tell you, Matt. I don't want to pick this game. I feel like I should be like Kirk Herbstreit. I'm on the call. I'm not picking it. I'm going with what I actually think, not what I'm rooting for. I think Ohio State's going to win. Dwayne Haskins, I think, should be the Heisman frontrunner. Only played in more than one half in one game this year, and that was against TCU. It's going to be a close game, but Happy Valley is going to be a little bit sad. It's going to be a good game, but Penn State's time is coming. It will be next year, the year after. It's not 2018. Ohio State by a touchdown.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Penn State's worrying me this year. We've talked about the Illinois game. Obviously, Appalachian State. Pitt. They just destroyed from beginning to end. But it seems like they don't have that spark this year that they had last year. That big playmaker. Obviously, they don't. Saquon Barkley, but it is a different year. It's Trace McSorley is a good quarterback. It's a good team there that James Franklin has in Penn State. And Jake, this is a hard game to pick, but I am going to go Penn State, and the reason why is I am not sold on Ohio State this year. I know that sounds stupid because you're like they're number 4. There's no reason not to be sold. I don't know what it is. I'm not sold on them. But I'm not really sold on Penn State either. But if this was in Ohio State, oh no, that's all right. If this was in Ohio State, if this was in Columbus, I would be picking Ohio State.
Yeah. So this is where I'm at. Penn State in their 4 games have only put together one good half, and that half, or one good half in each game. But that half is unbelievable. Yeah. That half is unbelievably good. Ohio State has beaten the crap out of everyone they've played, but the best team that they've played is TCU.
Yes.
Penn State's schedule hasn't been that great either. Ohio State has that TCU game. If But yeah, we're going to find out a lot about both of those teams on Saturday.
And that's a good point with TCU, because I thought that was going to be a much closer game. I mean, it started off close, if I remember right, of course, and then Ohio State just ran away with it. But
Nick Bosa as well.
Yeah, either way. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and either way, hopefully it'll be a good game. I'm sure you would be okay missing that game for a Penn State win.
I will love every minute of it.
Next game, we got Tampa Bay onto the Sunday games. Tampa Bay at Chicago.
Ooh, excuse me. I'm gonna pick the Buccaneers.
Okay.
I really liked what I saw from Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, but then again, that Bears defense is a lot different than the Steelers defense. I'm gonna pick the Buccaneers. I'm not sold on Chicago, even though they are first in the NFC North. So I am picking Tampa Bay.
And I'm gonna go. I know Keith will be upset, but I gotta go Chicago. Khalil Mack. I mean, 3 games, 3 forced turnovers, or 3 forced fumbles. I think he has 3 turnovers, like 4 or 5 sacks. I mean, their defense is just playing out of their mind. And you saw what happened. If Fitzpatrick starts, you saw what happened when he got pressure. He collapsed. Now, he ended up doing good. Don't get me wrong. He had a great game. I mean, of course he did. But I do think Chicago is going to get to him much better than the Steelers did.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next game we got Miami at New England.
New England.
Yeah, like we were saying, this is just they're going to end up throwing 52 up, but
yep.
I just had to pick it to see if one of you would fall for it, and I would pick New England and win.
Well done.
It was a good try, wasn't it? All right, next game, Cleveland at Oakland.
So, Matt, gosh, I'm sorry. I know we're running over on time. I'm really sorry. But I was happy for Cleveland last Thursday. I was happy for him.
Mm-hmm.
As crazy as that sounds, I was happy for him, and I'm a big Baker Mayfield fan as well. But now I hope they lose every game. I never want them to win another game ever again. With that said, I'm going to pick them. They're going to win. They're going to be 2-2. Oakland, they can't get any pressure on the quarterback. That defense is terrible, and Cleveland's defense is no joke. Cleveland by 10.
Cleveland by 10. Yeah, that's Oakland. I feel like one of these days, Derek Carr and that team has to get out of this funk. I mean,
I hope they do.
Yeah,
I really hope.
And I think they're a favorite. Or they're still a playoff, caliber team, and I think one of these weeks has to happen, and I think it's going to be this week. I think Oakland's going to take this game against Cleveland.
I hope they do.
All right, last game, Baltimore at Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh's back. I hated that second half, but I think that the Steelers. I think Tampa Bay's a better team than people are giving them credit for. The thing with that Tampa Bay game on Monday is that the difference between Tampa Bay and Baltimore, obviously, Baltimore has a better defense, but those 2 receivers. Pittsburgh couldn't cover the 2 big wide receivers for Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Baltimore doesn't have that. Alex Collins is going to go off. He's going to run for 125 and a couple touchdowns, but the Steelers will prevail on Sunday night.
Yeah, and I got to go with Keith here. I can't pick against the Steelers. I don't care if they were playing New England in New England, and New England was 15-0 going into the game into week 6, into week 17. I am picking the Steelers, but not just because of that, because I do think that, this is, Jake, every year, it doesn't matter how good Baltimore, how good Pittsburgh is, it's normally 1-1 for the most part. I know that's not true every year. I don't think that was true last year either, but I am picking Pittsburgh, just like whenever I play against, somebody who has a Pittsburgh player in fantasy, as long as the Steelers win, I don't care.
Yep, amen. Amen to that.
That's how I feel about it. So there you go. There's our picks for this week. Make sure that you also check out our poll question this week, which is, do you think all these penalties are? Do you think all these roughing the passer penalties are ruining the NFL? Make sure you jump on our Facebook page to vote on that, and make sure that you come back and join us on Monday. In the Cheap Seats with Christian and Jonathan, with Max and Tanner on Wednesdays, and then with Jake and myself here in the Cheap Seats next Friday. Jake, any closing thoughts for our listeners?
Well, sorry, guys. I'm going to add a little bit more hockey here. But, yeah, Wednesday, October 3rd, and then October 4th to Thursday. Beginning of the NHL season. I mean, it's a long season, but this is when you really start to see, who's going to be coming into play. The Washington Capitals are raising that banner next Wednesday night, but they lost Jay Beagle. That's a much bigger loss than people give it credit for. It's very similar to the Penguins losing Nick Bonino the year before. Just look out for little things like that. I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun. This NHL season is going to be really interesting again with all those changing pieces. Look out for some of these games on early next or middle of next week.
Yeah, it'll be great, exciting times. Also this weekend, the Ryder Cup, which is one of my favorite times of the year. You got Tiger Woods just off of his first win in 5 years, which is Jake. I'll be honest with you, I loved it. I loved seeing it. Yeah, I loved watching it. But Jake, as always, thank you for joining me. Thanks for being part of this, and it's always fun on Fridays. I hope you have a fantastic weekend.
All right, same to you, buddy. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. All of you, we hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy this beautiful fall weather, football, golf this weekend, whatever you want to watch, baseball, just enjoy it. We'll see you back here on Monday in the Cheap Seats.